I'm Dr. Kongsak Tanphaichitr. Today we'll be talking about the 5 aggregates or Khandha or Skandha with similes given by the Buddha, as well as Anattalakkana Sutra. This is from Pennapindha. Reflect on these 5 aggregates. A being or person consists of 5 group of existence or 5 aggregates: form or body, as well as sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts, including these forms: feelings, perception, thought formation or mental impulse, and consciousness. They together form like a self-image hologram, temporarily existing as a self-entity when interact with the environment, but in reality there's no true permanent self. It's but unstable, unbearable, and uncontrollable, or impermanence, imperfections, and selflessness, going, and gone. Five aggregates of 5 skandha or khandha. It's been given similarly by the Buddha as the following. Form is like a glob of foam. Feeling is like a water bubble. Perception like a mirage. Thought formation or fabrications like a banana tree without any solid hardwood inside. And consciousness like a magic trick. 5 aggregates with the simile. Reflect upon these 5 aggregates or 5 groups of existence in the Pennapindha Sutta. So, advice on the practice: you should clear your mind, keep your mind steady, and listen to the Buddha's teaching carefully so you can follow it clearly and understanding thoroughly. Once upon a time, the Buddha was by the Ganges River near Benares. He called upon the monks, sat them down, and started teaching as follows. Form is like a glob of foam. Feeling like a water bubble. Perception like a mirage. Thought formation or fabrication is like a banana tree with no solid hardwood. And consciousness like a magic trick.
ภิกษุย่อมเพ่งพิจารณาเห็นเบญจขันธ์นั้นโดยแยบคายด้วยประการใดๆ
However you observe them appropriately, examine them, they empty these 5 aggregates to whoever see them appropriately.
ก็การละธรรม3 อย่างอันพระพุทธเจ้าผู้มีปัญญาดังแผ่นดินปรารภกายนี้ทรงแสดงแล้วท่านทั้งหลายจงดูรูปอันบุคคลทิ้งแล้ว
Beginning with the body, as taught by the Buddha, with profound discernment, when abandoned by 3 things: life, warmth, and consciousness. Form is rejected, cast aside. When bereft of this, it lies thrown away, senseless, a meal for others.
นี้เป็นความสืบต่อเช่นนี้
That's the way it goes.
นี้เป็นกล
It's
สำ
a
หรับ
magic
หลอก
trick
ลวงคนโง่
and idiots babbling.
เบญจ
These
ขันธ์
5 aggregates are said to be a murderer.
เพชฌฆาตผู้ห
No
นึ่ง
substance here
เรา
and
บอกแล้ว
to be found.
สาระย่อมไม่มีในเบญจขันธ์นี้
Thus among persistence aroused
ภิกษุผู้มี
should
ค
view
วามเพียรอันปรารภ
these
แล้ว
aggregates by day and night,
มี
or
สัมปชัญญะ
24/7 perseverance,
มีสติ
alert
พึ
with
งพิจารณา
self-awareness,
ขันธ์ทั้งหลาย
mindful,
อย่างนี้
aiming for
ทั้งกลางวัน
nirvana or end of
ทั้ง
suffering,
กลางคืน
should discard all fetters, should make
ภิก
himself
ษุเมื่อปรารถนา
as his
หม
own
ดอันไม่
refuge,
จุติ
should
คือ
live
นิ
as
พ
if
พาน พึงละ
his
สัง
head
โย
were
ชน์
on
ทั้งปวง
fire,
พึงกระทำ
in
ที่
hope
พึ่งแก่ตน
of a state with no
พึง
falling
ประ
away.
พฤติดุจบุคคลผู้มีศีรษะอันไฟไหม้
A person or being consists of these 5 aggregates: body or form, feeling, perception, thought formation, and consciousness. Form is not self. Feeling, perception, thought formation, these are mental impulse. And consciousness, mental activities are those feeling, perception, and mental impulse. And consciousness or the mind. They're but not self or selfless, self-image hologram, a temporary existing, wise functioning. Word self, it would be lent to disease. It would not lend to disease. Would be possible to command it. Let it be this, not be that. But precisely, it's not self. It is lent to disease. Not possible. Let it be this and not be that. Feeling is the same way. Word self, it would not lend to disease. Would be possible to command it. Let it be this, not be that. But precisely, it's not self. It lends to disease. Not possible to command it. Let it be this, not be that. Perception is the same way. So is mental impulse or mental formation or thought formation. Same with consciousness. Word self, if we're not lent to disease, would be possible to command it. Let it be this, not be that. But precisely, it is not self. It lends to disease. Not possible. Let it be this, not be that. These are form as the 5 aggregates of clinging as self, as suffering, the first noble truth, as described by the Buddha. They are form, feeling, perception, thought formation, and consciousness. They are the 5 aggregates of clinging, which are suffering, the first noble truth. They are but self-image hologram or self-concept that your mind generates temporarily when it interacts with the environment. Buddha described as to be born is suffering, to age is suffering, to die is suffering. Sorrow, lamentation, grief, and despair are suffering. Depart from loved ones is suffering. did not get what one wants is suffering. Got what one doesn't want is suffering. He said, in short, the 5 aggregates of clinging are suffering. But first noble truth. They're but self-image hologram, a self-concept hologram that generate, in true nature, they but follow the 3 universal marks of existence, of impermanence, imperfection, selflessness, or not self. There's no true permanent self-entity, no being, no person, no self, no you, no me. They are suppositional. Over 100 years of searching, neuroscientists haven't found any place in the brain where self is located, because it doesn't exist. Normally, we are hit with the first arrow, or natural pain, called sabhava dukkha, like aging, sickness, and death. We're also hit by the second arrow, which is mental suffering, or cetasika dukkha, or self-inflicted suffering. First arrow, enlightenment also being hit, but only first arrow of sabhava dukkha, or natural phenomenon, but not hit by the second arrow, no mental suffering, or cetasika dukkha, as he sees his own thoughts thoroughly. From Sutta. Permanent versus impermanence, easeful or stressful. We always have these 5 aggregates as a person or life form. In Buddhism, considered as the 5 aggregates or 5 group of existence of form or body. Again, it include sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or thoughts. They're but impermanent, stressful, or imperfect, subject to changes, selflessness in nature. Is it fitting to regard as this is mine, this is me, this is myself, when it's impermanent, stressful, and subject to change? No. So is feeling. Perception follows the same way. Thought formation, same way. And consciousness, all but impermanent, stressful, subject to change. Whether the form or body or feeling, perception, thought formation, and consciousness of the past, present, or future, internal or external, gross or subtle, crude or refined, near or far, they follow the same way. Form is but form. With right understanding, it's not mine, it's not me, it's not myself. So is feeling, perception, thought formation of the past, present, and future, internal or external, gross or subtle, crude or refined, near or far. With right understanding, it's not mine, it's not me, it's not myself. So is consciousness of the past, future, and present, internal or external, gross or subtle, crude or refined, near or far. With right understanding, one can see that it's not mine, it's not me, it's not myself. They follow the 3 universal mark of existence: impermanence, imperfection, and selflessness. So it's not fitting to regard as mine, me, or myself. When we deal or perceive through our sixth sense sphere, has been described in the four foundations of mindfulness. When we come in contact through our sixth sense organ, our sixth sense sphere, salayatana, of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or thoughts, through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. It generates eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nasal consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mental consciousness temporarily exist and cease, arising and ceasing temporarily when they come in contact with sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or thoughts. It generates feeling, perception with pure perception, followed by biased perception or sanya chetana. Pure perception is sanya, followed by sanya chetana, biased perception, which results in craving or tanha, then disturbing thought, vitakka, and obsessive thought, vichara. Then they drive you to acquire this and that object or any idea and so on, which is not truly there. So the biased perception is but eye tag that your mind generates, self-image hologram. In fact, the feedback loop, like through your eyes perception, is 5 times stronger. When your eye perceives sight through your eye, it goes through the optic tract and then going to the visual cortex in the back of your brain. Then it has feedback loop, which is 5 times stronger than the input to the midbrain to interpret what it is with bias when you don't have any mindfulness and self-awareness to perceive it with true pure perception. Neuroscientists like Professor Antonio Damasio stated that in parallel with generating mental pattern for an object, the brain also generates a sense of self in the act of knowing. But in reality, it's not parallel. It's sequential, as described by the Buddha. From pure perception, become biased perception. It results in craving or tanha, which is the second noble truth. You crave for sensual desire, liking and disliking. But with mindful awareness, one can stop the process at pure perception without indulging into biased perception or sanya chetana, which is the root of your cause of suffering with craving to follow. Result in suffering as a first noble truth. So when you have mindful awareness, it will stop at pure perception. So you end your suffering by not following the track into conceptual processing. Stop at pure perceptual processing in your brain. A person with the 5 skandha or life form consists of body, feeling, perception, thought formation, consciousness. Those are mental activities, feeling, perception, thought formation. The mind itself or consciousness doesn't have form, is formless, but leave a track or trace behind as feeling, perception, and thought formation that you can track them down in these mental activities. When you're exposed to sixth sense sphere of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts, which are endearing and pleasing, You can easily fall trap into causing biased perception. With pure perception or perceptual processing, with Vedana, with pure feeling, and Sanya or pure perception, you perceive things actively and neutrally. They're but pure perception. So no craving, because it will be released and end right there with mindful awareness. But lack of mindful awareness, you perceive things, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts with conceptual processing or sanya chetana. Chetana means your bias towards yourself. You have intention, volition in it. Sanya means perception. So it's not a pure perception, become biased perception. To please yourself, so become a passive and biased perception. It results in sankhara, or thought formation, fabrication, or mental impulse to drive you to acquire this and that object or this and that concepts. So craving arises and sustain, result in suffering within yourself, in your mind. The learned noble disciples, when they see their mind clearly, they start catching the biased thoughts as it arises. When the mind is steady, calm, and peaceful, they can reflect on the reality very clearly, cleanly, wisely, and found that it's a burden when you carry on this 5 aggregates as self, as permanent, and we end up with suffering when you crave for things. So mind become wiser, not to carry on such burden, become disenchanted, discerned, or dispassionate, and liberated and released. Inside wisdom arises, realizing the liberation. So realize that birth is ended, holy life fulfilled, the task is done. There's nothing else further beyond this.